Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to present this year Fogarty orientation for the launch program about how to get the mentorship you need. And I want to start my presentation by saying something deeply true. Mentoring can make or can break your career. Actually, having a mentor who truly cares about you, not just your output, but your overall well-being, can make a huge difference in how far you go and how well you get there. So right now, to give you an explanation of where I am, I find myself living in two different worlds. One is the academic world. I am a researcher and associate professor at Cayetano Heredia Peruvian University, where I lead the Mamás del Río program. And the other one is a newer world in which I am. I am the head of the Secretariat of Political Advocacy in Medicine and Public Health from the Peruvian College of Physicians, which is the body that represents all physicians in Peru. So I have to deal a lot with Congress people, and that actually, as you may guess, it's very hard. And in this new political world, I don't yet have a mentor who can guide me through this complex space. For example, ethical dilemmas that we have, the unspoken rules, the competing interests. And sometimes in this world, in this political world, I feel lost. So making a contrast between my two worlds, one in the academia, where I have incredible mentors that have helped me achieve several milestones, and this new world where I don't have yet a mentor, made me reflect on the importance of how to get the mentorship you need and what truly matters to really have a good mentor. So this is the outline of my presentation. So today I will begin by explaining the concept of mentoring and why mentoring matters. Then I will explain you briefly how mentoring was a catalyst in my career and also can be a catalyst in yours. Then I will share with you 3 common myths about mentoring that many times hold us back. And finally, I will show you a practical path of how to get the mentorship you need and some recommendations for your upcoming fellowship, including the imposter syndrome. So let's start by reviewing the concept of mentoring. A mentor is a person who offers advice, information, and guidance to the mentee who otherwise grow more slowly without that mentoring support. And this process involves sponsorship, protection, challenge, and also I want to highlight this, increased exposure and visibility of the mentee in an organization or profession. And as you can see in this concept, this is a very different approach than coaching or presenting. So basically, for you, it's important to recognize this concept because a thesis advisor or a doctoral supervisor may not necessarily be your mentor, and it's important for you to know this. Now that I have explained the concept of mentoring, I want to talk about why mentorship matters. And there is solid evidence that mentorship makes a real difference in research careers. Actually, mentoring has been associated with higher retention and promotion, higher career satisfaction and mental well-being, and higher academic productivity. However, it's important also to recognize that access to mentorship isn't equal. And actually, when I review the characteristics of for whom access is not equal, I realize that I check every box. So for example, women, researchers from underrepresented racial or ethnic groups, international and first-generational researchers face more barriers to access mentoring. And actually, these gaps limit diversity, innovation, and inclusion in science. And also, these gaps affect who stays in science and whose voices are heard in shaping the future of research. That's why I want to emphasize that mentoring is not just something nice to have. Actually, it's a foundation for scientific equity and excellence. But the good news is once we recognize that, we can be more intentional both in how we seek mentorship and how we offer it. And actually, the Fogarty Fellowship is a powerful example of how we can tip the scales back into balance in mentoring opportunities for underrepresented groups like us. So now I would like to share an example of how mentoring was a catalyst in my career. And to give you some context, I studied medicine at Cayetano Heredia University in Peru, and I did, thanks to my mentor, was able to get a scholarship to pursue a master's in public health and a PhD in epidemiology at the University of Washington in Seattle. So during these years, I had 3 mentors who helped me become an independent researcher. These 3 mentors that you see on the slide each play a role in helping me achieve important milestones. For example, Patricia, she gave me my first job as a physician. I remember it was as a physician in an HPV vaccine clinical trial. And then I had the opportunity to talk with her because I had to decide which career path to take. And I wasn't sure. Many of my classmates were going into the residency to do clinical work, but I shared with Patricia that what I wanted to do is to do research, work in the community, and actually work to avoid people needing hospital care. So Patricia told me, Magaly, what you want is called public health. And that is how I realized that I wanted that, and that career path existed because at that time, public health wasn't popular. So after that, she recommended me to do and to follow that path, and I did my master's in public health and a PhD at the UW, and there I met Dr. Joe Sant. And with him, I wrote my fellowship application. It was to look for the association between the human papillomavirus and the human T lymphotropic virus in indigenous women from the Peruvian Amazon, specifically in the Shipibo-Conibo indigenous group. And that work opened the world for indigenous Amazonian and rural health for me, that I have continued until now with Mamás del Río, thanks to that first Fogarty fellowship program that I started. After that, I had to write my NIH career grant. At that time was called GRIP, that stands for Global Research Initiative Program for Foreign Investigators. And Cesar Cárcamo, Patty's husband, was the person who helped me through that process. I remember we sat and we reviewed every piece of the application during days. I finally got the GRIP, and I was able to get Cesar well. I remember I was in the process of becoming a mother, and he sat with me for hours, teaching me how to raise kids, how to breastfeed, if I have to sleep or not with my babies, because they want to breastfeed. So, I mean, we spent hours with him, and he also told me a lot about balancing life and family. And after that, Patricia gave me a stable position at Cayetano. I am an associate professor at UPCH. And also, Joe recommended me to have an affiliate associate appointment at the University of Washington, where since last year, I also serve on the external advisory board. So as you have seen, these 3 mentors were key and helped me achieve important milestones in my life. Of course, mentors are imperfect. I also learned from their mistakes. And those moments taught me what not to do and how to navigate certain situations with more wisdom. So what happened after this? After this, I became pregnant, and while working on my fellowship project in the Amazon areas, and while pregnant, I was able to experience the huge gap in access to healthcare that women in Amazonian areas face. Basically, you don't have access to anything. So that's when I decided to switch my career path and go to the world of implementation science, and also to the world of maternal and child health. And that's where I met Luis Gabriel Cuervo, who is my last mentor in that context. And Luis Gabriel is a family physician doctor from Colombia who works here at the Pan American Health Organization. So I want to explain you what Luis Gabriel did that led me to recognize him as my mentor. So I met Luis Gabriel when we received the award for social innovation in health at the Pan American Health Organization. And since then, he has been an important advocate for our intervention. So in Mamás del Río, we aim to improve maternal and child health in remote areas for the Peruvian, and we also now work in the Colombian Amazon by empowering community health workers with technology. So with Luis Gabriel, we have done many things. So first, he invited me to record a podcast for the WHO program called Global Health Matters. I remember we were featured in the first season, thanks to him. He also recommended me to go and funded my trip to attend international conference like the Health Systems Research Conference, where we, with his team, talk about global health communication. He also was the reason why our project was selected, and I was able to do one of the most important presentations I have done so far at WHO in Geneva. And basically it was because Mamás del Río was selected as a representative of social innovations in held in this important meeting. We also co-authored several papers in English at the British Medical Journal. We were also lucky to write in Spanish for the Revista Biomédica del Instituto Nacional de Salud from Colombia, from the NIH in Colombia. And thanks to him, I also had an interview at BMJ of how to influence health policy in Peru, and also a piece at BMJ. And he also gave me this important opportunity, and he told me, Magaly, you are the first cohort to select one social innovation that you want to visit in any place. So I selected, and I went to Colombia, to the Amazon area of Colombia, to see this beautiful innovation called the Son of the Tucán from the NGO Sinergias. So beyond all of this, Luis Gabriel listened to me for hours when I was going through very difficult times in my life 5 years ago, and we have been always in touch. So yes, as you have seen, for all of what I explained you, Luis Gabriel fulfilled all the criteria for an effective mentor. So now I want to share with you what are these characteristics that you have to look for in a mentor. A mentor first should be committed to the mentee's success, meaning that he will prioritize your needs over his needs, which is very important. So if I will tell something to Luis Gabriel, he will think what is good for me and not what is good for him. That is very, very important. Also, a mentor should consistently demonstrate integrity, honesty, and ethics, and these are very important characteristics. A mentor should respect the mentee and mentoring relationship, meaning that he should assure you confidentiality on all the information that you are discussing with him, acknowledging your contribution to the grants, to the papers, and respecting your time. So not rescheduling and having time for you. So if you come across a busy mentor, think if you want to keep him or her as your mentor. Also, a mentor should provide emotional support. Remember what I told you about Luis Gabriel, me experiencing these super difficult times, and should be an active listener and function as a guide and facilitator rather than a director and dictator. Also, a good mentor should have knowledge of the institution, professional field, and academic culture. And this is important, and this is the reason why you have a mentor in the US and a mentor in your home country, because the mentor in your home country will help you navigate this new space that is for you. Also, a mentor should provide honest, constructive feedback in a supportive manner. And I mean here, for example, to grant writing, papers, but also presentations that you have to do, especially, for example, for those who travel abroad, doing a presentation in another language is super difficult. Also, a mentor should provide vision. Remember what I told you about Patricia. She told me, Magaly, what you want is called public health, before I even knew the words to that. A mentor should create opportunities for you, not only publishing papers, but also giving you visibility and providing you support, for example, to go to conferences. He should advise you on decision-making. This upcoming year, you will have to make many decisions and rely on your mentors. And I want to emphasize this, rely also on your local mentors who know the culture very well. Sponsorship is important. Now, I mean, the fees for publication are expensive, so that, traveling, etc. And also, of course, a mentor should possess the knowledge and skills needed to meet the mentee professional needs. So sometimes mentoring is confused with other concepts, and I want to review this with you because, for example, coaching, which is the provision of a specific skill or research a particular goal. A coach is not your mentor. Or advising, which is time-limited and focused on a specific domain of professional development, also is not equal to mentoring. The same with teaching, tutoring, advocacy, and sponsorship. So ideally, a mentor can fulfill some or all of these roles, but it's important to understand that a coach, advisor, or teacher is not necessarily your mentor. Now, I want to take a moment to talk about 3 common myths around mentorship that many of us hold often without realizing it. So I want to ask you these questions. So the myth number one, mentors will find me. Is it true or false? Yeah, sometimes we believe that mentors will find us. So this one is very common, especially for those of us who come from hierarchical cultures where you are taught not to bother senior people. And I remember it was super amazing for me when I came to the US and I saw how you interact. No, it's very easy. For us, it's more difficult. So the truth is that mentorship doesn't just happen. It's not a magical moment where somebody taps you on the shoulder and says, I choose you. In reality, you have to seek mentors out. That might mean, for example, emailing someone after reading their paper. It might mean walking up to a speaker after a talk or asking someone to chat over coffee. Is it uncomfortable? Yes. But the worst thing they can say is no. And many times they say yes. So you have to seek them. So myth number two, one mentor must meet all my needs. Is it true or false? Yeah, it's impossible that one mentor fulfill all your needs. Remember, I told you I had 4 mentors so far, and probably I will have more in the future, we don't know. But what you really need is a mentoring network, a small team of people who offer you different types of support. Think of it like your own personal advisory board. And peers and near peers can also be on that board too. And we have examples of Fogarty Fellows. Like, for example, Lisa was the mentor of Miranda. So it's important to have a mentoring team. And the last myth, if it's not working, it's my fault. True or false? Sometimes it's true. Yeah, so this one can be painful. Sometimes mentoring relationship don't go well, maybe because there is miscommunication, mismatched expectations, or even neglect. But here's the truth. Mentorship is a relationship, and like all relationship, it takes communication, boundaries, and work from both sides. If it's not working, it means something needs to change. Sometimes that means resetting expectations. Sometimes it means moving on. So if any of these myths feel familiar to you, I want you to know that you are not alone, and more importantly, you are not stuck. So when we let go of these beliefs, we open up to the possibility of building mentoring relationships that are real and that are sustainable. So now I want to explain you practical steps to get the mentorship you need. And this is not just about finding a mentor. It's building a network that supports your growth in all dimensions. So I am going to break this into 4 practical steps. So the first one is to know what you need. So before you reach out to anyone, you have to ask yourself, what do I need right now? Do I need some specific skill? Do I need, for example, how to learn how to write grants, how to write papers? Or do I need visibility, which is very important? And you can be excellent, you can publish a lot, but if you are not visible, then it's a problem. Or do I need a sponsorship or emotional support or feedback to, for example, to know if I am in the correct path? That is very important. So one tool that can help here is a mentorship map. And it's a simple way to visualize the domains in which you're working with, what specifically you need on each domain, who is currently helping you, and the gaps and action steps. For example, you may have a great scientific mentor, but no one helping you in your career strategy or work-life balance. So mapping this out helps you be intentional. So the step number 2 is identify potential mentors. So once you know what you need, the next question is, who can help me with that? So your first instinct will be to look for formal advisors, which is okay, but I want to tell you that mentors come in many forms. So it can be a peer, for example, another Fogarty Fellow in your country, or maybe in a different country, or near peers, a former Fogarty Fellow, or external mentor, somebody from a different field that can bring a fresh perspective. And for this, you can reach NIH or university directories, LinkedIn, Research Network, conference, among other things. Now, the step number 3 is make the ask. This is probably the most complicated part, but it doesn't have to be awkward. So today you are going to learn about how to do an elevator speech, which is great because that's how you can approach a possible mentor in person. But if not, you can write a concise and infectious diseases. And I am currently working on the Shipibo Conibo indigenous group. So I am looking for guidance on the TLB and wonder if you will be open to a short meeting to explore whether a mentoring relationship might be a good fit. And this is a perfect example of something that you can write, make it specific, show that you have done your homework, that you have done, for example, research on Joe Sant. And most people love being asked for advice, especially when it's genuine and thoughtful. So the step number 4 is cultivate the relationship. Getting mentorship is one thing, but keeping it strong is another one. And this is where I like to talk about the 3 R's of being a good mentee. So show respect of your mentor's time, energy, and boundaries. Be responsible, follow through on the goals you set together. Show reciprocity and find ways to give back or show appreciation. Set clear expectations early on. Schedule regular check-ins, even brief ones, and never underestimate the power of a sincere thank you. And now I want to show you some pictures of how Lisa will be popular in this presentation. I will give a lot of examples about her. She's our former and also our current Fogarty Fellow, and how we keep our mentoring relationship strong. So I have been lucky to be on her PhD dissertation some months ago at the University of Arizona. We have been working in the Amazon for several number of years. Here we're interviewed at Radio Ucamara in the Amazon. And even we have hiked with our families in the desert of Tucson. So we have been very busy. No, so to recap, you have to know what you need, identify the right people as clearly, and cultivate the relationship. Mentoring is not something that just happened. It's something that you build step by step, relationship by relationship. And when it's done well, it can become one of the most powerful forces in your career and in your life. So if you want to explore more about mentoring, in 2009, a group of us gathered in Virginia and produced a special mentoring supplement published in the American Journal of Tropical Medicine and Hygiene that includes several insightful papers on the topic. Now, we are going to the last part of my presentation, which is what I will consider if I have to be a fellow again. So, this one is kind of hard, but the first thing is, I know that your research is addressing a gap in knowledge. I'm sure about that. Otherwise, you will not be doing that. However, think if the population that you are working with really needs that research. And maybe this is not the time, maybe in the future, that happened to me, but it's important for you to question that once, of course, before you are in the field, but once you are in the field also. Ask them, would you choose this research? I mean, if you have to choose several topics, will you choose my topic? That's an important question. The second is, have you thought on all possible implications of your project? And this also happened to me. Remember, I did a study on the association between the human papillomavirus and the human T lymphotropic virus. And we sampled 1,200 women for HTLV. And also we took swabs for HPV. And we offered women with HPV who needed treatment the option of getting treated. However, what happened? Many of the women didn't want to get treated. So they were with, HPV positive who needed treatment, not being treated. And at that time, I had to learn why they didn't want that, and they were afraid of not becoming mothers. And motherhood, it's important in Amazonian areas. Motherhood gives you a status. You are someone if you are a mother. So I have to learn how to deal with that when I was already in the field. So think about all possible implications. Your local mentors can also help you with that. The third that I want to show is how to give the results back to your community. So I know that you are going to write a paper, to do a scientific presentation, but that doesn't count as giving the results back to your community. And I want to show you 2 examples. one that Lisa did. See, Lisa did a research to understand why adolescent pregnancy happen in rural areas. It's super high, the percentage of women who get pregnant when they are teenagers. So she did qualitative and quantitative data collection, but she also made participants draw. She asked them to draw how they envision their future. And she compared the drawings of women who were adolescent and pregnant, women who were adolescent and not pregnant, and boys. And the way she gave the results back is not only doing presentations in all the communities where she worked, but also elaborating this beautiful booklet that is translated in the indigenous language and has the drawings, and it's very easy to understand. We have a lot if you want to take some with you. So it's a beautiful way of giving the results back to your community. It's easy to understand and it's like a story, and you can also download it on our website. The other example I want to tell you, and you can see in the back that fabric with the drawing, is from Miranda Harris. She was our most recent Fogarty Fellow, and she conducted research on how indigenous women express depression and anxiety using a body map technique. She asked women to lay down on a fabric and draw the outline of their body and draw inside the body how they feel depression and anxiety. That they didn't call depression and anxiety, they call la preocupación, or to be worried or worriness. So for example, you see in that canvas a baby and a woman bleeding because she said, well, that woman said that that's how she expressed depression and anxiety. You can lose your baby if you are on that mood. And also she made them draw outside how they deal with la preocupación, or the worriness. And the way she gave back the results is that Miranda, organized an exhibition in the communities where the women live. And there, the women themselves had the opportunity to explain their drawings, giving meaning to their own stories in their own words. So she traveled along several indigenous communities along the Marañón River to share this exhibition. And you can see actually on the back, and there's an explanation. And I just brought one. We had many, but yeah. So the fourth aspect is communicating your work to a broader audience. So we know it's important to give results back to the community, but also it's important for the general public to know about your research. And here, what I would recommend you once you get to the country is to start talking with a journalist who may be interested in your research, and that you can involve him or her in the process, so it's easy for him to report on what you are doing once you finish your work. So we have been able to show our research in TV, radio, newspaper, online media. We have an international podcast also. And we also have a Duolingo podcast. So if you are learning Spanish and you want to learn about Mamás del Río, check out the episode 62, Las Mamás del Río Amazonas. And also through a children's book. We have done that. Another way is through a website. If your mentor has a website, we have put all the, and you have seen here the landing pages, where, for example, and you can see it also in English, but I put it in Spanish, Mejora de la Salud Reproductiva is Lisa's project. So Miranda's project is also, it will be there. So there you can see like a story. It's not like a research paper. It's written in a simple way so for general public to understand what you're doing. And even in that website, you can download the booklet that I told you. Also, I want to highlight this beautiful website that is called Beyond Global Health. And it's a special website that Lisa and Dr. Maddie Bannan did. And in this website, science blends with art and poetry to facilitate dialogue. So there are other ways to express your research findings. You can use poetry, you can use art. Lisa is a poet, so it was easy for her to do this. So, and she's accepting contributions. So if you are interested in publishing here, we're lucky that she is on this audience. So the fifth aspect is to consider advocacy. And this is very important for me. But I realized later in my career. So when you go to the field, you will experience several injustices, things that aren't fair and shouldn't be on that way. So I will encourage you, and we're going to talk more about this on Wednesday, to become an advocate for the population you are working with. And I want to highlight here the work that Tina Samsanchariat, also from the University of Arizona, did. She did a study on the use of photo voice so that community health workers in rural areas in the Amazon can identify how important were they during the COVID pandemic, how key was the role that they played. So they took pictures of what they feel, how they feel they work, and how they feel they were key in the pandemic. She gave back the results to the community by elaborating this beautiful book with all the pictures and the notes that the participant took, that she gave back to all the participants. And one important thing that she did was this video. It's an advocacy video. So when her paper on the British Medical Journal was released, we also released that video. In this video, community health workers request the government several changes and request the government to access for their rights, not only for them, but for the community. And this was very, very important. And we use that video for advocacy purposes, not for the 3 bills that we're promoting to change the law of community health workers. Because although you may not believe, community health workers work for free in Peru because by law they are volunteers. So we are trying to change the law, and we use the video. And one important output of Tina's project was that the community health workers felt so empowered after the research that she did that they created their own association of community health workers called ACOSIL. They have even a logo that stands for Asociación de Agentes Comunitarios de Salud Intercultural de Loreto. So through this platform, they are advocating for their rights and the rights of their communities. And the 6th and final aspect is what happens after you complete your research? And that's something that you need to ask yourself like now, no? Will someone continue your work? What about sustainability? So this is a moment to think about who might carry your work forward. It could be a local researcher that you have to train when you arrive. It can be a community-based organization or a Fogarty fellow, the next Fogarty fellow that will come to your country. Finally, I want to talk about the imposter syndrome because it's very common and many of us have experienced it. So, the imposter syndrome, what is it? Is when an individual doubts about their skills, talents, or accomplishment and has this persistent internalized fear of being exposed as a fraud. So basically, every achievement that you have is not because you deserve it, it's because you are lucky, but soon somebody will find out. And this syndrome is very common. 70% of people have experienced it at some times. I have experienced it. It's more frequent among women, and is the feeling that you are a fraud and people will find out. And usually people with this syndrome don't like to accept accomplishments, and it's highly associated with perfectionism. Why is important to recognize this? Because it can lead to distress, depression, and burnout. So how you can overcome this syndrome? Well, you can celebrate your achievements, no matter how small they are. For example, you can give yourself credit and celebrate when you complete your IRB application, which we know is very difficult, or enroll your first patient, or submit an abstract. You can also create a support team. It doesn't need to be in person. It can be also online. So form a group of peers and mentors who will empower and also encourage you in the moments of doubt. And talk back to your negative thoughts. When we have a stressful moment, like doing a presentation, we start to have these negative thoughts. So you have to learn how to silence them. And also, I would suggest your practice of mindfulness, which is very useful. Finally, I want to close by highlighting the profound impact that mentorship can have both personally and professionally. The Launch program is a unique opportunity to connect with mentors who can not only help you grow your career, but also stand by you in the moments when support matters the most. This upcoming year, enjoy life, celebrate your milestones, and make also a space for joy and connection, because at the end of the day, your career is important, but your life is even more important. So thank you very much for your attention, and this is how you can connect with me.